So for all you out there that say you can't put on muscle while running or swimming or biking, you're wrong. I just did. Today, I'm going to be telling you how I went from looking like this to this. Now, before we get started, I will admit I did use a little bit of Photoshop in those pictures. But you can't blame me for YouTube prioritizing and pushing all the clickbait thumbnails and titles. Hate the game, don't hate the player. Also, speaking of YouTube, I would truly appreciate it if you could go and hit that subscribe button. Ironman Texas prep is going to be starting here very shortly. Well, it kind of already has. And I do plan on documenting my journey to Ironman Texas as well as the race itself. And so if you want to find out if I can finally go under 8.5 hours in an Ironman and not bonk during the marathon of an Ironman, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But back to this video. Today, I'm not going to be telling you just how I went from looking like I did in that first picture to the second picture, but also why. And I also got some body fat measurements done, so we'll be taking a look at those, my body fat percentage, muscle mass, all of the above. Now before I do, I should probably start off by explaining why I wanted to lose some weight. I know weight can be a very touchy subject in endurance sports. However, I still think it is something important to talk about. And so I guess to start off with, we should go back to Ironman Florida. That's kind of where this all started. Leading into Ironman Florida, or actually we should probably go back to Ironman Texas. I've always raced Ironmans a little bit lighter. Usually I walk around 140 to 145. And so that's actually what my race weight was at Ironman Texas. And I felt pretty good. But I wanted to see what I would feel like and what it would be like if I raced a little bit heavier. Especially after listening to some podcast episodes with Christian Blumenfeld, how he always talked about, trying to put on weight because at the end of the day, you need more energy to race faster. Calories are king. So I decided in the summer, after Ironman Texas, so this past summer, to put on a little bit of weight and see how I would feel racing Ironman Florida at a bit heavier of a weight. So I think I actually, leading up to the race, I was around 150 pounds, which is the highest the most I've ever weighed. And I thought that I would definitely be stronger on the bike. I knew it may impact my run negatively, but as I mentioned, I wanted to see, how it would go. And since it wasn't it was an important race, but it wasn't like a key race that I needed to perform my absolute best at, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity. And what I noticed was, I actually didn't feel much stronger on the bike than I did at Ironman Texas. I did push, I think, 15 watts higher, but I think that's primarily due just to an increase in fitness, not necessarily extra weight. I did notice my swim, I definitely felt a lot stronger in the water in the swim workouts leading up to Ironman Florida. Now, I'm not too sure if that's, once again, due to an increase in fitness or I was carrying a little bit of body fat, extra body fat, so I was floating a little bit higher. Whatever the case may be, I was swimming the best I ever have been leading up to Ironman Florida. I can't really compare swim times from Ironman Florida to Ironman Texas because the swims are so different. I swam relatively the same time, but Ironman Florida was definitely a harder swim. The run, however, I didn't feel as good on the run as I did in Ironman Texas. Once again, can that be attributed to the excess weight or to the fact that I didn't fuel as well? I'm not sure. I'm sure it was a combination of both. But whatever the case may be, after Ironman Florida, I took a look at the race, thought about how I felt, and I decided, yeah, for me, I don't know. I just felt better when I was at a bit lighter of a weight. And so after Ironman Florida, I decided to lose some weight. And I wanted to do it relatively quickly after Ironman Florida. The reason being, I didn't want to do it too close to Ironman Texas, because when you're in a caloric deficit, your performance is going to suffer. As I just mentioned, calories are fuel, calories are king. There's a quote by Christian's coach who, what did he say? He pretty much says, calories, I forget exactly. But the premise of the quote was, you can't go fast without fuel. And where do you get fuel? Food.
Said before, no velocity without power, no power without calories.
So that's why, as I mentioned, I wanted to do the crop relatively early, so then my build to Ironman Texas wouldn't be negatively impacted. People always ask me, they're like, Parker, how much weight do you lose during an Ironman prep? I don't lose weight during an Ironman prep. I gain weight during Ironman prep. And that's actually a reason why I did such a, how should I put this, aggressive cut. So the stats, let me get so right here I have the 2 scans I did. I used an in-body scan. There's a lab near me that I go to, and I got an in-body scan done. So my weight right after Ironman Florida was around 150 pounds. And then right after Ironman Florida, I really didn't do much. I actually had to take 2 to 3 weeks off of training. I got some surgery done to my mouth. And so I didn't get a scan done until December, when is this? This is December 4th. December 4th was my first scan. So already after Ironman Texas, I had lost, Ironman Florida. I'm gonna get these 2 races mixed up. But anyway, I was 150 pounds at Ironman Florida. By the time I took this scan, I was 144 pounds. Or 145 pounds. 144.6. So in that short time frame, I already lost pretty much, 4 to 5 pounds of weight. And the primary reason why I lost so much weight that quickly is because, well, like I said, I wasn't training much, and so I really wasn't concerned on getting in enough calories, and I was eating a lot less nerdy nuts. Speaking of nerdy nuts, if you want to pick some nerdy nuts up for yourself, check out their website, link in the description box below. Enter code FASTFoodies10. They make the best peanut butter you have ever tasted in your life. Back to this scan right here. So I was 144.6 pounds, and my percent body fat was 9.7%. So for me, that's a little bit fluffier than I usually am. I usually walk around, as I mentioned, 145 pounds, but my body fat is a little bit lower than that. And I think that's because after Ironman Florida, I got it right that time, I really wasn't doing any training, any weightlifting, so I just lost a bunch of muscle. However, once I started training again, this is when the cool part, this is the cool part right here. So from December 4th to January 1st, it was the same protocol. I did the scan, both were done on Mondays. I did at the same lab, everything was pretty much the same. So in less than a month, I managed to lose pretty much 4.5% body fat. So my body fat percentage went from 9.7% to 4.6%. My lean body mass actually increased by 5 pounds. So I put on 5 pounds of muscle, and my weight went down pretty much 2.5 pounds. And during this entire 4-week period, I was still endurance training, swim, bike, running, 25 to 30 hours a week. So for all you out there that say you can't put on muscle while running or swimming or biking, you're wrong. I just did. And now I'll tell you how I did that. And I guess there are 3 major factors that helped me achieve this body composition. It was the style of endurance training I was doing, the strength training I was doing, and my nutrition. I'll start off with the strength training because that's kind of the most obvious. You can't put on muscle if you don't lift weights.
Well, duh.
And so during this 4-week period, even though I was endurance training 25 to 30 hours a week, I was still lifting weights 3 times a week. Now, I do have a strength coach. All athletes with NVDM have access to the strength plan that our strength coach provides, Coach Harold. He's a great coach, super smart, knows his stuff. It obviously works. You can actually see how much muscle I put on and where I put the muscle on. through these scans. So I actually put on just a little bit of muscle in my upper body, but then I put on close to 2 pounds of muscle in each of my legs and half a pound in my trunk, or the core section, which is exactly what you're looking for in an endurance style training program. You don't want to bulk up the upper body too much, but you want your legs quite a bit stronger, obviously, since you're biking and running too much. And so if you're interested in getting a coach, I have my email in the description box below. Feel free to shoot me an email, check out my website. But back to the strength training, I did the same workouts pretty much every week. We were in a 4-week, very strength-focused block. And so every Tuesday was a total body day. Every Thursday, I did a leg day. And every Sunday, I did an upper body day. And these were the same throughout the entire 4 weeks. And so really the only thing that changed was the amount of weight I was using. And the reason why I changed the weight is because of progressive overload. Pretty much what progressive overload is, if you want your body to adapt to put on muscle, you have to give it a reason to adapt and to put on muscle. Muscle is a very expensive tissue. And so if you're going to be losing weight, or if you're going to be in a caloric deficit, your body's going to want to get rid of the tissue that is the most expensive to keep, that uses the most energy, which is muscle. And so unless you're constantly challenging your body, forcing it to adapt, it's not going to want to hold on to excess muscle. Why would it? And so I made sure to track all my weight and my reps and the sets in the Train Heroic app that we use. And I made sure that week to week I was always increasing. I try to always increase the weight without my form breaking down. If I did notice that the weight was starting to get a little bit heavy, I would maybe add 1 or 2 reps for every exercise, for every set, just so I could have that progressive overload. Keep on going from week to week. And I did notice my lifts in the gym get stronger. I think when I started the block, I was squatting 155, 165 pounds for 5 sets of 8. And by the end, I did 185 pounds. And no, granted, I didn't put on, 30 to 40 pounds of muscle for the squat specifically. I'm sure some of that increase in the lift came from, just practice, doing the lift more often, etc. But I definitely did get stronger, and I followed that same kind of progressive overload philosophy for all the lifts. So that's part 1. You have to lift weights to get stronger. You have to put stress on your body to adapt. And now, kind of going along with that, the style of endurance training I was doing was a bit more conducive to preserving or putting on muscle than other types of endurance training. What do I mean? Well, I was doing a lot of, since it is the off season and this is more of a strength focused block, I was doing a lot of, on the bike, bigger workouts, in the swimming with paddles and a pool buoy, which is very strength focused. And on the run, I was doing a lot of hill reps and hill repetitions, running on an incline. One of my favorite workouts I did was actually a Sam Long workout, running at like 3, 4, 5, 6%. If you want to see that workout, check out my Instagram. All 3 of those factors combined, I'm sure, helped preserve muscle mass. I'm sure they didn't really help put on too much muscle, since you're not going to be putting on too much muscle if you are just endurance training. That's where the weightlifting comes in. But it certainly didn't hurt it. If I was just going out and running 12 miles every day on a flat trail, and just swimming 30 minutes without any focus or intensity, and just, biking at 100 RPMs every day, that probably wouldn't have helped me out too much. But since I was, as I mentioned, in more of a strength-focused block, those 2 aspects, the heavy strength training along with the strength style of endurance training I was doing, those 2 combined definitely did help with this body transformation or body composition change. Now, last but not least, the third part that helped me achieve this change in body fat and muscle mass is my nutrition. And speaking of nutrition, I think this will be a good time to announce one of the new sponsors I have for the 2024 season. Well, 2 new sponsors actually, Raw and Revive. I'm extremely excited to start working with these 2 companies for this upcoming season. Actually, the entire NVDM team has a partnership with them. I know, no more VPN. We have parted ways for quite a few reasons, none of which I'm going to be going into today. But yes, Raw and Revive are the 2 kind of supplement nutrition sponsors that NVDM will be working with for this year. If you do want to pick up any products from Raw and Revive, I'll have their links in the description box below, and you can enter discount code NVDM at checkout to save 15%. Revive creates your typical daily multivitamin supplements. Some of my favorite products from them are their daily greens powder and magnesium. I also take their zinc and vitamin C. And Raw makes your protein, pre-workout, electrolytes. That's actually something I'm very excited about. Raw is going to be coming out with their own brand new endurance line for endurance athletes. And they are working with the NVDM Elite team and the owner of NVDM, Natasha, to create this line. So in a few months here, they are going to be coming out with a carb mix as well as an electrolyte mix and a few other very exciting products down the road. So make sure to keep an eye out. I will be testing them and reviewing them here on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But as of now, I just take I have some of their protein, Raw Sleep, and this is their current hydration supplement. However, the one that they have coming out later this year is going to have a lot more sodium. Let's just leave it at that. I also take their creatine. But the reason why I bring up these supplements, besides an excuse to plug them and for you guys to use my code, as I mentioned, NVDM, link in the description box below, is because nutrition is just as, if not more important than the actual training you do when it comes to body composition. I mean, the only way you're gonna lose weight is if you're in a caloric deficit, which means you are expending more calories than you're intaking. And so for me, you know, I was probably, if you guys haven't checked out the video I made about how many calories I burn in a day, you should definitely check that video out. It was with Calorify. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but I burn a lot of calories. Now, if we do the math, I went from 144.6 pounds. Or I was in a deficit of 300 calories a day, which actually isn't that bad. I do think, however, the deficit was maybe a little bit larger because I think I was a bit dehydrated on that first weigh-in day when I was 144.6. My average weekly weight of that week, that makes sense, yeah, was a bit higher. So I was probably in a caloric deficit closer to, 500 calories a day. But long story short, pretty much if you want to lose weight, you gotta be in a caloric deficit. And so that's what I was. However, if you are just in a caloric deficit and you're not prioritizing certain macronutrients, you're gonna be losing a heck of a lot of muscle and not a lot of fat, which is not what you wanna do. You wanna do the exact opposite. You wanna hold on to muscle and lose all the fat. And so what do you need to do to hold on to muscle? Protein, my friend. You gotta be getting in a lot of protein. When you're losing weight and you wanna hold on to as much muscle as possible, you have to make sure you're getting in enough protein. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose a bunch of muscle and not a lot of fat. Because as I mentioned, muscle is a very important, it is important, but it's also a very expensive tissue to hold on to. And well, protein is the building blocks of muscle. Now, how much protein do you need to get in? I always tell my athletes to try to get in around 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein. Personally, I was eating between 200 and 220 grams of protein a day. Yes, I do know that is a heck of a lot of protein, but you also have to remember, I was eating a heck of a lot of calories. In that caloric burn video, I guess I'll spoil it, but I was pretty much eating between 6 to 6,500 calories a day, and I was still in a deficit. So when you're eating that many calories, you're just gonna be eating a lot of food in general. Now, you don't have to get your protein through protein shakes, no. As I mentioned, this is a supplement. It should supplement your diet. Ideally, you're getting as much protein as you can from whole food sources. My favorite sources, cottage cheese, yogurt, and eggs. I eat so much of that stuff, it's ridiculous. And so I do get a little bit of flavor fatigue, and so that's why, also I like ground beef and bison, that's also very good. But that's why I like having 1 to 2 shakes a day, sometimes maybe another one if I am training quite a bit. And so I'll usually have a shake before and after every workout. And another very important nutritional component is fueling your workouts. If you do a lot of your workouts fasted or without proper fuel, your body is going to get rid of the most expensive tissue first, as I mentioned, muscle. And so by fueling your workouts with carbohydrates and making sure that your body has an adequate amount of fuel that it can draw from, carbs and not protein, you will be ensuring that you preserve as much muscle as possible during those workouts. And so when any of my athletes are looking to lose a little bit of weight, I always tell them pretty much three main things. Make sure you are lifting weights, you are fueling your workouts properly, with enough carbohydrates, and they're in a caloric deficit. And I always recommend to cut your calories from your bigger meals, your dinner usually, as that won't impact your performance on the training sessions as much as you were to cut them through, as I mentioned, during your workouts or right before or after a workout. I definitely do recommend getting in some type of protein carb mix right after a workout, especially if you have multiple workouts in a day, because that's going to impact recovery and how well you perform in the following workouts. So I think that's going to do it for this video. I don't really know what else to talk about. Long story short, if you guys want to lose weight and put on muscle, you got to do three things. You got to eat in a caloric deficit, you got to prioritize protein, and you got to lift weights. It's as easy as that. That is the secret to success. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments down below. If you guys want me to do another video on this kind of topic, let me know. Besides that, as I mentioned, I have a lot more training footage that I'm going to be recording, training footage. I'm going to be making a lot more training videos coming up here shortly now that the training is not really going to be ramping up again, but it's going to be more Ironman specific, Ironman focused, so that's always fun. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys do pick up any supplements from Raw or Revive, let me know. As I mentioned, I got that code, NVDM, helps me out, truly would appreciate it. And I think that's about it. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and we'll catch you in the next one.